Okay, so welcome everybody. We are starting now the fourth session and the last one of our data journalism course. As usual, I'll start with a quick summary of our last session, and then I'll move into the final part of our course. In a nutshell, today we're going to look into maps. So we're going to make some maps together using Datawrapper, which is the same tool that we used last week to visualize data. To make maps, obviously, we'll need some geographic data sets, but I have prepared some for you that I would share with you so that you can also repeat the exercises using the same data that we used during the online session. So if there are no other questions, I'll start with my screen. I'll share my screen. And I'll open Datawrapper, which is the tool that we used last week and we use again today. Let me close some apps that we don't need so that we have more memory. And yeah, so Datawrapper is a data visualization tool created by Mirko Lorenz, who used to work at Deutsche Welle. Deutsche Welle is like the public broadcasting service in Germany. And he decided to create a tool for journalists to visualize data without coding. That was the idea. And among other things, he said that maps are a key part of data visualization and data journalism. So an entire section of Datawrapper is dedicated to maps. So let's see what kind of maps we can create with Datawrapper. There are three types. The first type is called Choropleth Map. The second is called Symbol Map. And the third is called Locator Map. Each of them has a separate use and purpose. Choropleth is to visualize administrative data. So, for example, data that is aggregated for regions, for countries, for continents, for so-called administrative areas. And it can also be seen as a way to visualize subnational data most of the time. So, for example, if you have the elections in your country and you want to show each municipality what kind of votes and what's the majority that won the electoral polls, you will use a Choropleth map. And that is something that you can very easily do with Datawrapper. It's the first type of maps we're going to see today. Then the second one is a symbol map. A symbol map is useful when you want to visualize dots or points on the map that are not linked to administrative units like regions or countries, but are linked to geographic coordinates. So, for example, let's say that you have a map of all the bicycle accidents in your city. Then hopefully you will find a table with all the coordinates of each accident. You can put them on the map by using the symbol map. For that, you will need a list of points with latitude and longitude. And then you can also link like a category by coloring the dots, or you can also set the size of the dots on the basis of an indicator. We'll see an example later, so don't worry. And then finally, there is a locator map. I don't think we're going to have the time today to look into the locator map, but just know that it exists. And it's an exception because it's not based on data. It is more like a static map, a little bit like a street map, like the one you see here on the right-hand side of my screen. So you can do this with Illustrator very easily, especially because it's not interactive. But Datawrapper wanted to create a simple way to make this kind of maps. So you can do it directly into Datawrapper. Again, this is not a data map. there is no data. Like you go on the map and click and add the markers. You can color the map. You can add text boxes. It's a little bit like an illustrated map. And the idea is that data journalists need to do this very often, but they don't want to use Adobe Illustrator because it's too complex or too expensive. So Datawrapper created an alternative. But let's start with the Choropleth map. So you see here another example. This is like population growth. Let me see if I can zoom a little bit. It's like population growth in European regions. So it's like subnational data. For example, in Italy, it's showing the provinces. In Italy, each country has a different terminology for regions, provinces. Some countries are federations of states, like Germany. So in Germany, you would talk about London. In Spain, you would talk about comunidades autónomas. But Datawrapper will give you the option to visualize data on the same level of granularity on Choropleth maps. So in that case, we talk about something called NUTS, which is a standard made by, I think, the European Institute of Geography or the European Institute of Statistics, Eurostat. It's a standard. It's called NUTS, which means Nomenclature of Territorial Units for Statistics. They came up with this standard so that you can compare an Italian region with a Spanish region, with maybe a Greek region or a Swedish region, even if they have different names. So you have like NUT0, which is countries, like the simple national boundaries that we all know. They correspond to NUTS0. NUTS1 is what I was talking about, regions. In Spain, NUTS1 would be comunidades autónomas. Then you have, every region is made of provinces, most of the cases. So that would be the NUTS level 2. And then finally, you have municipalities that are like those units that are making a province. So it's very useful to know this because sometimes the data that we find on Eurostat, for example, is categorized with this level of NUTS. So you can find data that is NUTS 2, and you will know that is corresponding to provinces. If you see NUTS 0, it will be countries, so on and so forth. So just keep in mind this nomenclature. It's useful also when you use Datawrapper. Then let's go back to Datawrapper. As you can see, it's the same process of like creating a chart. I will open my Datawrapper here. You click on the dashboard. You see here a lot of the charts that you made using your account. But we want to create a new one. So you go here on Create New Map. You have the 3 types of maps that we just described. So let's start with the Choropleth map. The first thing you need to do is to understand what kind of geographic entity you are mapping. So is that Europe? Is that Africa? Is that a single country like Greece? You see Greece NUTS 2, Greece NUTS 3, the municipalities, I guess, or maybe provinces, and then you have municipalities. It's like the level of zoom. Obviously, it will depend on the data that you have. The first thing in data journalism is to find the geographic data to make maps when you want to make a map. Without geographic data, you cannot make a map. But let's assume that you have you have geographic data about the prefectures of Greece, maybe the population of the prefectures. This is the moment in Datawrapper where you decide the geographic shapefile that you will use. It has all the countries of the world. So, for example, you can have the Italian regions, you can have the Italian provinces. The same thing I did for Greece, you can do it for any country of any kind of continent. So this is Colombia, for example. If you need continental data, or if you need the world, you also have the world. You can make a map of the world. Sometimes you have the same map in different versions. For example, if I remember correctly, in Armenia, there is a version with and without Nagorno-Karabakh, because there are some disputed boundaries or borders. So Datawrapper will give you the option to choose the one you prefer. I think another example for that would be Morocco. So in some cases, Morocco includes Western Sahara, which is this part here that here doesn't show up. Sometimes it doesn't. So you have two versions of the same map, and depending on your story or your media outlet, you will pick one or the other. I'm just showing you this so you know that Datawrapper has put a lot of effort to provide as many shapefiles as possible. Look how many. And it's also what makes Datawrapper probably the best choice to make maps, because it gives you all these shapefiles in no time. And other tools, for example, Flourish, the last time I checked, they don't have so many shapefiles, but you have to go find your shapefile somewhere else and then upload it on Flourish, which is a relatively difficult task to do. So yeah, this is why I suggest Datawrapper to make Choropleth maps. All right, so I think the best way to do it is to find some data that we can use. I have prepared a data set on early school leaving. This is something that Eurostat collects. It counts how many students don't finish the mandatory schools in all European countries. So it's called early school leavers or leaving, and it can be found on Eurostat. Very, very interesting data set. Unfortunately, it's an evergreen problem. It seems that we still have about, as you can see here, almost 10% of people in Europe who are aged between 18 and 24-year-old who have completed at most a lower secondary education, but did not further their education or training. So they didn't kind of finish what in Italy we call high school or liceo. So again, here it will change name in every country, but each country will have a different definition of early school leaving. But Eurostat has aggregated all the data together and made it consistent. So you see here, they provide some interesting data. We're doing a little bit of data research together. So this is how it works on Eurostat. You start digging into it. Obviously, normally you have 1 or 2 hours to do this. Since we don't have time, I have already done a little bit of research, and I found some interesting data sets. So, for example, we have early leavers here, and we have a fantastic table with all the statistics from all the countries in Europe, broken down by year. So from this table, you can see, for example, where our countries are. 10%, 10.5% for Italy in 2023. Greece will be this line here. It will be Probably a bit less. This is really nice. Very low, lower than Italy, and very low compared to a lot of other countries. Early school living. Then you can do your own investigation to understand what this number means. Then there are countries with 16, 17, like Romania, or even Iceland seems to be very high. It also depends on how people measure this, like how their statistical institute measure these phenomena. But I know that Eurostat has done a little bit of work to harmonize the data so that you can compare these indicators. And there is also one line about the European Union or the Eurozone, and the average is almost 10%. So you can also do comparison between one country and the European average. So this is how you find data. You start on Google with a topic, you figure out where the most solid data is, you get the machine readable table, which is this one, and normally you go and download it. So the problem with these websites is that they're complex, they're not easy to use. So every time you have to kind of find the right button to download it. Because, for example, the Eurostat website is made like this. If you go to the World Bank website, it will be made different. So you need to read very carefully the entire site and figure out how to download it. So I download it from here. It will take a second. And you get the data set. So now I quickly open it. It's like this. There are 3 pages or 3 tabs or sheets. The first one and the second one, they have like the descriptions of the indicators, so you can read them later if you want to. And then you have the most important one, which is the actual table. So this table here has a geographic column, you see? Column A. That is the column that we're going to use to color our map. And then we have all the time series. So do you remember what you do after you download a table like this? You have to clean it. So you enter into the data cleaning phase of data journalism, which is something that we can quickly do together. So I'll move into Google Drive, create a new sheet, and I'll start putting the data that I want into it. So I'll copy this part between Belgium and United Kingdom. I'm just leaving out some countries that either don't have any data or they're not properly part of the European Union. Well, it's no problem. I think we can take them all. Then we can delete them afterwards if we want to. So I copy it here. And then I'll take the last column because it's the 2023 data. So I copy from here to the last row, which is this one. Copy. And if I haven't made any mistake, they are aligned. So let me quickly zoom in so you can read better. I'll add the header, and this is early school living 2023 in percentage. So I've quickly made a clean data set by using a little bit of cut and paste and creating a new file that I can easily load into Datawrapper. I'll quickly remove some of the countries that have no data, like these ones. so that we have only countries that have collected the data. And this is a data set that we can use to make a map. I'll share it with you so that you can use it after this lecture. And I'll drop it in the chat, but obviously you can reach out to me just in case you need it. There you go. So now you have it in the chat. And okay, so what do we do now? We have to load it into Datawrapper, right? So let's do it. We said that we have European countries, right? So we take Europe. This is a map of Europe. We proceed. Then we try to connect it from Google Sheets. Let's see if it works. I've just copied and pasted the link. Sometimes this thing doesn't work and you have to download it in CSV. This is a problem of Datawrapper. Sometimes it doesn't connect well with Google Drive. So when this happens, you will do it in this other way. And in fact, this way it works. So in a few minutes, we have already generated a map. Here you have like a preview of the map based on the data that you have just uploaded. There is a problem. You see, there is a red cell here on Czechia. There is also a red cell on Turkey, and then Bosnia-Herzegovina. And then you have these light gray countries. These are the countries that have no data. So these are okay. We need to fix the red ones because the red ones are errors or mistakes. And the reason why this is happening is because we are using the name of the country, in this case Czechia, in a different way from the name in the Datawrapper system. So if we change this and call it Czech rep, it will work. Did you see what I did? I just renamed it into the suggested name made by Datawrapper. We can do it also on Turkey. So this is because this country has been renamed very recently from Turkey to Turkiye, and Datawrapper doesn't read the new spelling. So we go here and then find Turkey. And you see Turkey has showed up. Now it's not a mistake anymore. The same for Bosnia and Herzegovina. This is how Datawrapper calls Bosnia and Herzegovina. Click here and we got it. So now there are no errors anymore. We can proceed. So here it's actually telling us to pick the column where the name of the country is. It's column A. Normally, Datawrapper understands this automatically, but if it doesn't, you can set it manually. And then the column with the values or the numbers that we want to use to color the countries. In this case, it's early school leaving, this one, which is column B. So we can proceed. Proceed. And now we can finally set the parameters, configure our map, and do what we like. The same of what we did on charts, we can do it here on maps. So early school living in Europe. That could be the title. Then, can add a description. For example, here you could add the link on the source. to add the source. Here you can put like data in percentage. And then obviously, if you want, you can also add the definition of early school living here in the description, so people know what they're looking at. Then you can add the annotations. Well, this depends on your story. So if you want to catch the attention of your user on a particular part of the map, you can use this. And then it's nice to add like an arrow like this one. Then you customize the way you like. Something like this. You can choose where you want to put it. Probably too long. I would put it here. And so on and so forth. So you do what we did last week, you do it here. There are a few other things that you need to know. So there are 2 ways to pick the colors. So you can have discrete steps. So you have like 5 distinct buckets of color, and you can customize the ranges of each bucket, or you can use the continuous spectrum of colors. I normally use the continuous spectrum because I like how it looks, and I think it works very well. But if for any reason you want to change the ranges manually, you can use this other type of color palette. Then you can make the map zoomable. The inset map is a small map that appears when you zoom in. You see? So if I zoom in here for any reason, it will show up here just to show you where on the European map you are zooming in. I think it's a nice feature that when you zoom out, it disappears. So I think it's really nice. And then you can hide the borders or add the borders. It's completely up to you. Then what else? There is a legend. You can keep the legend or remove it. I always keep it. Then you can change the title of the legend, make it invisible. Up to you. And yeah, it's nice. Then another thing you can do, it's this. Well, you can reverse the legend item order if for any reason you want to show the highest numbers first on the left. You can do that. And then let's check. I think these are all the most important ones. Yeah, this is about changing the margin of it, the maximum height, and then the margin, if you want more margin or less margin. These are all very, very self-explanatory features. What I like is like this option here, enable highlighting on hover. So if you go in one country, you see the legend, it will change dynamically. It's quite nice. So I would keep it. Yeah, and that's all. So this map is kind of ready. We can proceed. We've already added the source, the percentage, like the unit of measure, the title. can move. Next and next. You click on publish now. And in like less than half an hour, we've made an entirely usable Choropleth map based on real data coming from Eurostat. So I've been running a lot because I want to ensure that we have time to do also the other types of maps. But if you redo the process with like 1 hour of time, you will learn and it will be an easy job. So now here, what you do is either you take this link, which is the link to the map, looks like this, and then maybe you want to share it with somebody, you share the link. Or more importantly, you take the embed code and load it into your newspaper's website, maybe into your article, and plug it into your article so that the map will be in between your text or like in your content management system, for example, WordPress. This is the easiest way to make a Choropleth map, in my opinion. Last option, you can download it as an image. If you want to print it, you can download it as an image, and you get it in a static format. Okay, so let me quickly stop sharing my screen and see your reactions. So I've been running quite a lot, but I hope you could follow me step by step from the data research to the data visualization. Any question?
How do you manage to import more precise boundaries? For example, as we are local media, we are interested only in Alpes-Maritimes, which is a province, but inside the province, we are interested maybe in the city of Nice. So this doesn't exist in Datawrapper. So how do you find the map to upload it in Datawrapper?
Okay, good question. I assume you have already searched for it, right?
I've searched in Datawrapper and I can only find Lyon and I didn't find Nice, for example.
Yeah. So there is no one single way to do this. So first answer, it's possible. Second, there is not only one way to find it. You need to go and find the shapefile of your municipality or your region. Maybe type the name of it on the chat so that I can quickly look it for you. Okay, Nice. It's the Nice shapefile. So Nice shapefile. Let me quickly. I'll quickly share my screen again so you see what I'm doing. You have to find a shapefile. This is what you have to find. So sometimes the region or the municipality or the city or the province, they have their own websites where they keep these shapefiles. Now, I don't know where the shapefile is, but using my intuition, I feel like this could be a good site. I'm not completely sure, but you can go and find it. Then when you find it, maybe it's here. You download the shapefile here in format. The format can be JSON or CSV. I think you'll have to spend a little bit of time here to find it. But once you find it, you go on Datawrapper, and I'll show you. You go on Create Map, Choropleth, and you upload your shapefile there, here. And then it will show up here. So you have to find the shapefile in JSON or topo JSON format. If you find it in CSV, You can convert it into GeoJSON. It's an easy process, and it's explained here. I think the best way to start is to read these. I have done it sometimes, but the challenge is to find a shapefile somewhere online where you can use it. So I'll share this with you. And if you don't find it, reach out to me, Sophie. And after this session, I will try to find it with you. And this can be for any municipality, any region, any province. Unfortunately, I don't think there is one single database online with all cities of the entire world. If you find one, let me know, because it would be useful. I know one site that is called Gadum. Gadum is like an online database for shapefiles, but it doesn't have cities. It only has countries, provinces, and regions. Doesn't have cities, like single cities. Okay. Any other question? Feel free to ask any question. Okay, if there are no questions, we can make another map. Okay, so I'll share my screen again. Ah, I see somebody is unmuting, or maybe not.
Me.
Okay.
So, I wanted to ask you, is there something that we have to keep in mind when we decide what kind of map to use?
You mean between the three types?
Yeah.
Yes, so if you have data, so it all starts from the data. So when you have a geographic data set, you can then decide which map you want to use. So if you have a geographic data set with a list of countries, regions, provinces, cities, but they must be like administrative units. So in that case, you can use Choropleth.
Okay.
If you have a list of geographic coordinates, like latitude and longitude, so you have points, then you use a symbol map. If none of these are your data sets and you still want to make a map without data, you can make a locator map. Yeah. The locator map is a map without data. It's like an illustration. You can illustrate it manually using Datawrapper.
Perfect. Thank you.
If we have time, maybe today, if we have like last 10 minutes, I can also show it to you. It's not exactly data journalism, but it's useful. So I think we can, because we still have 45 minutes. So, okay, I'll move into symbol map now to see how it works. Let me quickly share my screen again. So the symbol map is very easy. You go on Datawrapper, as usual, you create a new map, and you click on symbol map. It's the same interface of a Choropleth map. The only difference here is that you're not going to color the regions or the countries. You're going to put dots or points, markers on the map. So maybe we can take Greece as an example. And okay, now you would need a data set with like a list of markers. If you don't have them, you can generate it yourself. So for example, if you have collected data from, I don't know, maybe on the street or evidences of any event that you want to put on the map, and you only know the address, you can do it by searching the address here, and Datawrapper will convert it into the coordinates. And now I will just put some. I think I'm not writing it correctly. I was trying to put another one. It might not work with the European. Oh well, no, it works. I don't know. Sometimes Datawrapper doesn't. I think depends on the connection also. And you see, you are adding dots on the map. It can also be an address. Obviously, this will overlap with the other one, but it's something that you can do as many times as you want, and it will basically put a dot on the map. Then the other thing you can do, you can associate the dot with a number. So for example, if you have like the population of a country or of a city, or the number of people who go to a certain school, and you have the address of the school, then you can add another column here with that number, and it will determine the size of the marker. If you have a data set with this, you can upload it here or just copy and paste. And yeah, I have one that I can probably try to use. It comes from IOM, which is the International Organization of Migration. So it has a lot of data with geographic coordinates. They are here. You see? So this data comes from this iom.int. It is the data about missing and dead migrants in the world. And they have a lot of interesting data here that you can use to make maps or make visualizations. And one of the data sets that they have, which you can download from here, will allow you to create a map like the one that we're doing together, right? If you are interested in this topic, you can go here and find a huge amount of data. And you can download it in a machine-readable format. For example, this, if it works, because it's a bit heavy. So we need to check if the connection works. You download it, then load it again on your Google Sheet, and then basically load it on Datawrapper. So I had prepared it. Let's see if I can find it. Yeah. So this is how it looks. You can do it. You can download it and load it, but it will take some time because it's very heavy. So you take this, and then you can try to load this on Datawrapper. So let's see how many rows we have. I'll try. We see if it works. It normally does. If it doesn't, we can try with a smaller data set. But do you see here we have two columns with the latitude and longitude of like events of dead or missing migrants. And yet we also have a column here with the number of people involved in that event. So we download this as a CSV file. And I'll quickly also give you the link to this so that you have it. So now I download it. I'll go on Datawrapper. Create a new map, symbol. And let's see if I can manage to load it. So this is, okay, the data is from all over the world, so we can leave the world shapefile. Then we upload. Should be this one. It will take a few seconds. Yeah, there you go. It went much faster than I expected. So you see this crazy map here. This crazy map has all the points coming from that data set, which has thousands and thousands of events. So we now have to configure it. Column for latitude, latitude. Column for longitude, longitude. This is correct. Column for symbol size. So we do have a column here with a number that we want to associate to the markers to determine its size. This is column D. So we can set it here. Column D. And then if we had another one, like we wanted to distinguish between dead and missing, if we had like a way to distinguish two colors, or if we wanted to put these markers into two buckets, we could have also configured the color on the basis of another column. But this is not the case, so we leave it this way. Then it will show you the rows that are not mapped, because I'm sure that into this dataset there are some errors. So if you go here, there are some events that have no coordinates. We can't do much about it. We just ignore it and put the data that we have on the map. So this is all the data mapped in a single map coming from IOM. We have basically now the chance to make it more readable. So for example, if you start zooming in, maybe you're interested in a specific location. This is the Mediterranean Sea. You already see where most of these events are happening. So by using the zoom, you can make it more readable. You can change the color. Then you can group. You can use this kind of automatic grouping to cluster the markers together. And obviously you can change the color of the groups. You can add a legend to let you understand what the size means. Then you can change the shape of the marker. This is just like a design choice. Then you can set the maximum symbol size. It's again a design choice. Then opacity, more or less. It's a design choice. So multiply colors of overlapping symbols will help you distinguish areas where there is a higher density of the events. it's a very heavy data set, so it's taking a little bit of time to load. And then what else can we do? There are two ways to visualize the legend. One is like these 3 circles. The other one is like concentric circles. And then what else can we do? The inset map is also the same we saw before. Okay. We set the title. Source. And then I think we can proceed. Make it a bit bigger. I think this map looks very good on a full screen desktop version. So we'll try to open it on a full screen later and see how it looks. Add the social media button if you want. Just remove it and then proceed and publish. The most important aspect here is to remember when you have administrative units or you have point data. When you have administrative units, you go for a Choropleth map. When you have point data like shipwrecks or events of migrants losing their lives, like here, this happens in the middle of the sea. There is no administrative unit there that you can color. So in this case, you have point data, you use a symbol map. Let's open it on full screen. This is not full screen. I think for full screen, you'll have to extract it from here. Probably with iframe. Let's see with iframe. There should be a link in here that you can go and extract and then use it as a just to quickly see it as full screen. It's a small trick. Let's see if it opens full screen or if it just show me. Yeah. So this is what I wanted to show you. It's quite impressive, right? It's super heavy because the data set is heavy. So it's only useful for our exercise. If you have to put it on your newspaper, you probably want to use a smaller data set because this data set has like tens of thousands of points. So to load, it takes a while. And this is a little bit of the work we did at the Migrants files, which is one of the projects I talked about in the first lesson. It's quite impressive, and you can actually understand the magnitude of this phenomenon when you put it on a map. And realize also that a lot of the people who try to come to Europe, they lose their lives on in the desert or near the Canary Islands here. not only in the Mediterranean Sea, but also look here. There is this Turkish border. You see all the patterns. So let me stop sharing. I wanted to show you the locator maps. If there are no questions, I think this is a good moment to do that.
Mhm.
So I'll share my screen again. Okay. And then here, you go here and you create a map again and a locator map. So do you remember this is a map without data? So it's a little bit of a bonus that we can do together in like 15 minutes, and it may become useful in the future. So you will create something like this. Look, I'll show you some examples. So I don't know, you want to create a map showing the itinerary of a trip, or you want to show like key points on a hyperlocal map. Like here, this is Central Park in New York. You want to do something like this, more like an illustration, which you will do manually or semi-manually. You want to highlight one country, and maybe you want to highlight a region, you see, with a circle. This is like a map of Amsterdam, the sightseeing map. You want to color cycle lanes. It's quite versatile and it's easy to use. So let's look into it together. The first thing you have to do is to choose a place that you want to visualize, or you just zoom into it. You can put like an address, and it will put a marker on the address, and then you can also zoom in onto that address. You zoom in, zoom in, zoom in. You will make it as zoom in as you want. And then, depending on the event that you are visualizing, you can start playing with it. So you can start adding as many markers as you want, and then personalize the markers. Change the icon. It really depends on what you want to put on the map, but I'll show you the key features here. Obviously, you can make it bigger or smaller. You see, you can rotate. You can really define any single detail of it. Change the color. There you go. Then let's see, like the most interesting. Well, you can obviously add lines and arrows the way you like. Maybe there was a fire, you can put it here. Then, aside from all these interesting design features, I think what I really like of this is the 3D version. So you have 4 types of design that you can take from. I like this one, the earth one, because it will show you a difference between green spaces and buildings and roads. What I really like of this is the 3D visualization. So You can set it by selecting it here, and then you can tilt the map. You can tilt it even more. And it will look like you are viewing it from a drone. You see? It's quite impressive. I mean, the more time you spend making it, the better. You can rotate it. Say that there was a rally here in Syntagma Square and something happened. Maybe you want to explain it on a visual asset like this one. So on and so forth.
You always put fires in Syntagma Square.
Yes. Just because I ended up in there in, was it 2015?
Yeah.
Where? In Exarchia.
There was a problem there.
Yes.
He knows what he's doing.
These days is a bit quiet, so it's good. But yeah, you have all sorts of icons. It can be a fire, it can be a shooting. Think of, for example, what happened in was it in Pittsburgh just over the weekend. You could have made like a locator map of the shooting at Trump. You can really visualize like events that require like a geographic visualization, but more on a local level and more on a kind of illustration level without data. So then you can add all these kind of features here, like scale bar. You can highlight a region. You can add again the inset map.
Also, I see Alex has a question.
Okay, let me stop sharing. I'll come there.
Is there a way to like connect several stops? Like, for example, if you have, I don't know, a group of people that came from one place and then stopped somewhere and caused some disturbances, and then they went somewhere else.
Yes.
Like the path they
Yes.
did.
So the easiest way I can think of is the one I'm going to show you in one sec. What I really like is how you can customize the icons. So let's go to the markers. And now we change the fire into something else. We add a circle, and then we can add a number into it. And then here you change it into a circle and you add the number again. So you can have this kind of situation where you have multiple multiple icons with a number inside, so that it looks like a sequence of events. That's one way to do it. The other way, I think, is to draw lines. So you draw lines. I don't do it very often, but I think you can do it this way. See this line here, you use it as a sort of arrow, so you can hack it the way you like. And obviously this arrow can also change in terms of design. So this is you can make it a bit larger. The arrow here, you can make it more visible like this. It's really up to you how you move all these components and elements around. I like the numbers because when you have a sequence of events, you can say, okay, this happened first, this one second, and then third. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, I hope I answered your question.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. And then I wanted to remove the arrow. Okay. This can also be zoomed out. If you have something that happened on a larger scale, you can go anywhere and rotate and do it the way you like. It's quite incredible because you see, you don't need to know how to use Adobe Illustrator, which is very expensive and also very time consuming, to do a quick, easy to use map. Okay, let's move to the next stage. There is another way to use this thing, which is not on a hyper local level, but more like on a national level. So I'll now quickly remove the markers because we don't need them anymore. Okay. So let's leave it this way. You can highlight regions. Look. So this can also be done, as far as I know, on a local level. You see, for example, you want to highlight this, you can. It has all the shape files of areas, a little bit like Google Maps. So if sometimes when you Google on Google Maps an area, it will give you the borders of that area. You can do it also here. You can highlight a region. Or even more than one. And once you highlight it, I think you can also change the colors of it. You see? And also change this kind of field type. So let's say that there is an area that is going to be demolished or rebuilt, or it was affected by some sort of problem. You can use this trick here to set it. It's quite amazing. This can be very powerful. And it works pretty well. You can change, obviously, the border size. There you go. Maybe you want to say that these two areas were affected by a problem or something. You can do that. So this is another way to use it. And then once you've finished, you add your source, you add your description, title, and then do what you do with the other maps. Click on Publish Now, and then take it and embed it. So I'll give it to you. You can combine markers with regions highlights. So you can do the two things together. It's quite powerful.